Yeah, it's pretty good. All right. Yeah, The Last of Us Part 2. It's been a roller coaster, all right. So let's dive right in and see what makes this game great, huh? The Last of Us Part 2 review coming up next. Fair heads up before we begin. There will be spoilers, so if you're looking to play this game yourself and you just want a fair indication of whether or not this game might be for you, this is not the review to watch because I'm not gonna hold back. So either back away now or suffer the consequences. Lol, suffer the consequences. All right, let's just get the nitpicky stuff out of the way first, so I can end on a high note, right? I prefer to leave with some high praise and telling you why a game is great, rather than explaining why a game is bad as though I'm the perfect game. One thing that strikes me, and it struck me fairly early on in the game, is that this game has a strong, and I mean strong, use of the word fuck.
Fuck yeah!
I don't give a fuck.
Fuck you.
What the fuck? Fuck. Fucking clickers. And then get the fuck out of here.
Fuck! And take a fucking break.
Fuck, this is awkward. Fuck. Oh, fuck it. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Jesus Christ, Joe.
Now, I don't mind the word fuck. I use it quite a lot myself, like so many of you. Fuck to me no longer is really a bad word. To me, it's become a superlative, if anything, right? Something isn't very awesome or super awesome. No, it's fucking awesome. So, I'd like to think that I've mastered the art of using the word fuck. And even I am of opinion that the word is overly present in this game, to the point where I think that it feels just forced in some instances, like they're just using it, like they're throwing it out there just to be, I don't know, edgy, or to give it that grim, stout, no holds barred sort of feel. I don't know. It's if that's what they were going for. To me, it just feels like Joel in a mankini, right? It's too much. Speaking of Joel, nitpick number 2, they killed Joel.
Joel, fucking get up!
They It's- they killed him at the start of the game, just like that. It hit me hard. I didn't expect it. Right? They showed that big trailer where he's like, "What are you doing, kiddo? You really want to go through with this?" Or something along those lines, and that made me think, okay, it's set a few years into the future, right? Ellie looked older. And this is a setup for Ellie and Joel back at it again to do, God knows what. And then it's just a hard nope.mp4. And it's, oh man. It's I'm still angry. I still am. It wasn't instant either, right? This was some sort of, it wasn't a freak accident or a heroic sacrifice to save Ellie or someone else. This was just bad luck stuck its boot up his ass, and the wolf did the rest. I am not angry, I am livid. Other thing that struck me, just a small thing, what was that guitar playing thing? Where you had to strum the guitar to produce a chord sound? What's the added benefit of doing this? The game forces me to clunkily strum the guitar a few times before a cutscene takes over and does the rest for me. What why though? Why? And perhaps it was all just a big joke leading up to that end scene where I couldn't actually play the chords anymore because I lost 2 fingers. I suppose there is a joke hidden in there somewhere. But overall, I didn't think there was a need to add this, right? They could have just have me interact with the guitar and then immediately start the cutscene. That would have been fine. This was, I did switch to a button pressed strumming, which did work a little bit better, but even then there was no added value to it whatsoever. Unless you really want to spend in-game time trying to learn to play the in-game guitar, you know, then by all means knock yourself out. But yeah, I could have done without just fine. The act of pushing and pulling objects in this game, you know, I've said it plenty of times as I was playing, but holy shit, movement should not be impaired to such an extent. It is easily one of the most unintuitive controls that I've ever had to work with. There were small distances I had to travel, but within those small distances, I got extremely angry. It was very late into the game that I sort of understood how I had to maneuver in order to go where I wanted to go, but pushing and pulling a dumpster felt like trying to control a supermarket trolley, where you just have one wheel that never seems to work right, so you always just steer left or steer right into some, you know what, forget it. Why was that necessary, right? I don't mind dragging something from A to B, but at least allow me to do it without too much of a hassle. And this wasn't just a hassle, this was a Hasselhoff. I don't get how this works. Jesus Christus. Can you be any... This is like one of those supermarket carts. It really is. I wish I were better at aiming with the controller. This isn't critique towards the game, this is just a critique towards me. I had a point of self-reflection. If I had like a reflective pool here in my room, I would be staring into it right about now. But, you know, I don't, so I can't. Those are the really pressing cons to that I found during my playtime with this game. So now, on the plus side, let me start with the overall gameplay of the, you know, game, because there are a few pros and there are a few cons, so this will serve as a nice way to bridge the gap, if you will. Gameplay, for the most part, feels very familiar to what we already know and love, but it's in the little details where it's improved slightly, but it does a lot in the long run. One thing that is immediately noticeable is that there is 100% fewer ladders to find and carry to any place, so you can climb to wherever it is you need to climb. The first game had you looking for these all the time, or they had you start generators, which would then signal a horde fight. Overall, I think in this game you carry like 3 or 4-ish ladders, which feels more like a novelty at this point. You are still starting generators, but it's not necessarily the start of a horde fight. You really are just starting a generator to get some power going, and that is a welcome change, because it made the original game a little bit predictable. Another welcome addition is that I can now perform stealth kills without having to use shivs. The Last of Us Part 1 constantly had me craft shivs in order to defend myself, but yeah, in this game I have this nifty little blade that doesn't lose durability, so I can just stab away. You do have to craft shivs when you play as Abby, but I consider the moment you switch to the WLF point of view to be a bit of an increase in difficulty overall, right? You need to craft shivs in order to perform stealth takedowns on clickers when you play as Abby. Ellie has a 6-shot revolver, whereas Abby has a 1-shot hunting pistol, forcing you to reload after 1 shot instead of 6. Ellie has a combat shotgun of like 4 or 5 shells, whereas Abby finds a double-barreled shotgun, which only gives you 2 shots, meaning you have to reload after every 2 shots. Ellie gets Molotov cocktails, which explode on impact and leave an AoE area. And Abby gets a pipe bomb, which detonates after a brief pause. So if you fail throwing it correctly, like I've done a few times, then you are pretty much wasting a perfectly good bomb, right? So there are subtle difficulty changes that occur when you switch from Ellie to playing as Abby. So that's fine, right? It forces you to adjust how you were playing and see how you can adapt to the new situation. Aiming does feel a bit off here and there. You know, I know my accuracy is like my older cousin, not exactly 100%. But if an infected is right in front of me, point blank distance, I aim down sights and I just pull the trigger, not adjusting my aim whatsoever, and I still miss. That's no, that's no, no. Flammenwerfer. Oh yeah, yes. You come test this thing for me. Why did that miss? Another thing I would like to mention is that my AI partner, at times, and this is especially prominent in early game, is that the AI partner at times feels overly zealous, shall we say. Now, I know this isn't part of the blame, it lies with me for not just killing enemies when I'm supposed to. But, and I would like to get better at it, but if the AI just picks off enemy after enemy after enemy, you're not giving me time to get good at the game. And Lord knows that I need to practice. One thing I really liked, gameplay-wise, is that the difficulty subtly increases as you encounter different factions. Right? You start out in familiar territory with the infected. Probably the most dangerous encounter at that point being the clicker, which was already a problem in The Last of Us 1, right? And it makes a triumphant comeback here, much to my chagrin. Then from infected you go on to the WLF, or the Wolf. They are smarter, they communicate, they are more cautious, and they have dogs which are able to sniff you out, forcing you to constantly move from hiding spot to hiding spot in order to make sure that you're not, sniffed out. Then later on you encounter these scars, or Seraphites, and they use whistle communications, meaning that at times you don't know what exactly it is they're saying, because, they're not saying a lot of anything. It's making everything harder to follow in regards to what's going on. They have arrows that they can fire at you, and if they hit you, it gets jammed in your shoulder and you're impaired. You have to yank that arrow out first in order to get full control of your body back, which is it's really cool. It's frustrating, but it's cool. And the Seraphites also deploy, whom I have come to call Brutus and Gunda, which are big meat castles that don't particularly care if I fire bullets at them, right? And this is a complaint that I've had a few times during my playthrough, where if I fire a shotgun blast in your face, at least flinch. Really, one hand. Alright, Brutus.
You motherfucker!
Sick and fucking tired of these guys. How are you not... Right? Can we agree that that hurts? It's supposed to, right? But they just train right through it, and they either smash me with a hammer or they grab me by the throat. And I'm like, please pretend to care. And then lastly, which is very late, it's almost post-game. You encounter the Rattlers, and the Rattlers have steel helmets, so you can't take them down with one shot to the head, which is more annoying than you'd think. So that's it's subtle and it's woven nicely into the game, but there is a subtle change in difficulty as you progress through the game because you are encountering different factions, and I think that's a really cool way of dealing with difficulty overall, and not just the gameplay. Can we take just a moment to appreciate the graphical goodness that this game is bringing to the table? This is some god tier graphical goodness. Right? The lighting is incredible. The textures they're especially all the blood and the cuts and the bruises, and I suppose they have to be because there's a lot of it in the game. You dumb bitch! I was... No.
Fuck. That was rough.
Holy shit. Yep, that's the body of a warrior. Holy shit. What's even more impressive to me, however, are the facial animations, the facial expressions that I've been seeing throughout the game. A point at the start of the game where Joel asks Ellie a question, and Ellie doesn't know the answer, and she just gives that shrug together with a sort of a, I don't know. And I remember actively thinking, so wow, that was a really good expression. And later on, I found that I could turn my camera around as I was performing a stealth kill, and I also said this when I first saw it. There's just a facial expression that Ellie has when she is shivving someone is absolutely fierce. It's really, really, really cool, and also worrying. This thing's, man, the expression when she's doing that is incredible. Now, as much as I hate that they killed off Joel, I do think that it was an interesting decision, right? Because it gave me some time to think it over, and there really is only so much that you can do with Joel and Ellie before you're back to retreading old ground. As such, I'm surprised I warmed up as much as I did to Dina and Jesse. Jesse in particular, I really like Jesse. And because to me, at this point, Joel and Ellie are like Bonnie and Clyde, like a Battlefield game and hackers, right? They're inseparable. They go together. And then Joel just gets deleted. Like a streamer on Mixer, he just, whoop, gone. And in return, I get several partners that I play with throughout the game, and while it doesn't matter much gameplay-wise, right, the AI will do what the AI always does, I do find myself thinking from time to time, saying, yeah, but you're not Joel. And, I like that that view changed. As such, I'm also surprised to have been able to play as Abby as much as I did. Not only did they kill off Joel, they also didn't make me play the entire game as the previous protagonist, really, or one of the two. It introduced a fresh perspective. I do have to give Naughty Dog credit for that. During my gameplay as Abby, I often comment on how much I dislike Abby and company, and I still don't like them. I still don't like the members of the WLF. Abby is down to earth, but there's just something about her that I don't like. And I've seen the cries online. It's not Abby's physique that puts me off. It's something else that like I said, I can't put my finger on it. I don't like Owen. I just don't. I don't like Mel because kick. I barely like Manny. I don't even like Jerry. We meet him very briefly in the game, right? Jerry Anderson, who turns out to be the head guy who was supposed to make the vaccine. We only see him for a short period of time in the game, and in that short period of time, they managed to get me to hate him. I do like Alice though. Alice is definitely the goodest girl. She gets a pass. But yeah, again, I do appreciate Naughty Dog offering a story from the perspective of the bad guys, so you really see both sides, and it's not something that you usually see in any video game. Yara and Lev, who are also very much the enemy, I did like those two. I don't know why I liked them as much as I did, but yeah, it made for a great chemistry and dynamic with Abby. So there are definitely some points that I appreciated about the WLF point of view. It's just that overall, I just prefer Ellie over them. I guess that's just it. Moving on. That shitty song, If I Ever Were to Lose You.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself.
I like how that gains a sort of sentimentality over the course of the game. When Joel first played it, I did sit there thinking, man, this is a bit wanky, isn't it? And I still think it is. I still think it's a dumb, shitty song, but because of everything that happened, I like how it now has weight to it. The implementation of the flashbacks that you have playing as Ellie, right? She's going to sleep and just has these dreams of the past. I really like how they've implemented that because they lead up to the big one, right? Where the secret gets outed and Ellie learns what really happened at the hospital. And that was the one thing that Joel wanted to prevent at all costs. And I knew that eventually she would find out. Maybe not as soon, but yeah, when it happened, I was like, okay, what's going to happen? And well, pretty much went as I expected. And I'm surprised they didn't go the standard route where someone else tells her, well, you know, he lost his daughter once and, you know, that whole spiel. But then in the end scene, at the ending scene of the game, she is the one that takes the first step. She goes to him with the intent of, I'm going to try to forgive you. I wonder what made her do that.
I don't think I can ever forgive you for that. But I would like to try.
And it was good for me, too. Now knowing that Joel didn't die staring into the eyes of the person he cares for more than anything, who hates him more than anything, right? Joel died knowing that he and Ellie, they were sort of, they were good-ish. And that's enough, I think. At one point, I thought the game was ending, and the game really threw me for a loop there. I have to give credit there, right? Ellie and Abby, they finally meet. They square off. I played this as Abby, and while I was playing, I commented on the fact that I really didn't want to play that as Abby. I wanted to play as Ellie. We throw down, and I end up just knocking the absolute shit out of Ellie. And I get up and I say, well, don't ever let me see you again. And I just fuck off. And from there, it's hard cut to the farmhouse, right? The thing that Dina talks about during our time in the Seattle QZ.
You know, I've always dreamed of fixing up a farm just outside of Jackson.
And I'm walking around there. Dina has since shat out that thing she calls her child. And it just has it gives me this sour taste in my mouth, right? And I'm looking here and I'm thinking, this really is the epilogue. This is it. This is how it's gonna end. Really?
Got a lot of stories to tell you. When you're older. Much older.
And then came the PTSD attack. Then came Tommy. And then came Ellie, donning Joel's coat, mind you. And then came the choice. Do I pick Dina and family, right, the present? Or do I pick Joel, my past? And I actually went with wanting to see things through. It's who I am. And I really, really commend the game for doing that, because that's not a choice you see made often. Part of me thought this was a setup for a next installment, right? Ellie moves away and that's the cut to the credits. And that would have been okay, knowing that Ellie still wants to try. But before I knew it, I was again knees deep in some godforsaken part of the world. And I'm like, wow, I'm still playing. I'm still doing this. We are still doing this. Yeah, that was a hashtag Mary Chase from the game, all right. I clap for you. There was a Hotline Miami Easter egg in this game, and it was awesome.
Where is she? In the hospital.
That is Hotline Miami. That is so fucking cool. And I want to take this with me. Is this like a... What is it supposed to be? Is this a Switch? Is there any specific relation between Naughty Dog and Hotline Miami? Because I need to know this. Why was that in the game? It was a really cool addition. I was surprisingly happy for Abby to find out that the Fireflies are actually still a thing, right? She and Lev make contact with remnants of the Fireflies who appeared to know the name Jerry Anderson, right? The guy on the other end of the radio, he was like, wow, well, how about that? Good old Jer, right? And Abby and Lev are slated to go to Catalina Island, and they are brutally captured and thrown into a labor camp. Wow! Holy shit! But eventually they managed to get themselves to a boat, and I like to think that they do make it to Catalina Island and are welcomed with open arms. Or at least an arm that's not holding a gun pointing the danger's end at them, despite the gap of a few months. Speaking of which, the ending, the real ending of the game, is one that I'd been speculating as I was playing the game, right? It's something that I was speculating toward to. It's what I hoped would happen, and it was pretty much perfect in how it played out, to me at least. Ellie, she was down on her last legs, right? She had only two things on her mind, revenge and Abby. And she was just pushing forward way past her limits. And Abby, in turn, right, she was strung up and basically crucified, really. And she had no strength left whatsoever. She didn't want to fight Ellie. She genuinely said, you know, I don't want to do this. I just don't.
No. I'm not gonna fight you. Yes, you will.
And Ellie, I'm pretty sure that Ellie didn't want to fight Abby either, right? I'm pretty sure that both girls were just fatigued beyond any recognition. And Ellie was just, well, it's not a matter of want, right? I need to do this. I have to see this through for my own sanity. Something along those lines, I think. It was brutal to watch, right? They didn't have any strength left, and they just sort of had to do this. And there was a moment where Ellie gets the upper hand, right? As we all hoped would happen, I'm sure. She gets the upper hand and she starts to drown Abby. And part of me was like, oh, so this is really it. Is this really how it's gonna? I mean, okay, I guess I don't mind, but really, this is it. And then she let go, and I thought, yes, this is probably this is good. And Ellie just says, get out of here, just go. It's gonna sting for her for a time to come, I'm sure, but over time she'll come to see that it was probably the best choice she could have made. I'm very certain that Joel would be damn proud of her. The only person I'm not so sure would be 100% okay with this is Tommy. I wonder how he would have looked at this. But yeah, this game was an intensely wild ride. There was lots of pain, lots of feels, lots of curveballs, but overall, lots of respect for a story well told. This game definitely gets a pass from me, and I highly recommend you play it as well if you still want to, you know, having heard all these spoilers. And so, another game gets added to the shelf. People of the world, again, thank you so much for playing this game through my eyes. I am the Hiraeth Gamer, and I will see you on the next one.